Thank you, Under Braukonasdóttir. His Excellency, Dr. Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, President of Iceland, and other distinguished guests. It is an honor to deliver this presentation here, and the fact that this session is taking place at this impressive international venue is a token of the increasing importance of the West Nordic Arctic. Today I want to introduce to you the West Nordic Council, its operation, and how it contributes to the Arctic's democratic parliamentary cooperation through its increasing Arctic engagement, which includes discussions on a joint West Nordic Arctic strategy and an application to become an observer to the Arctic Council. The West Nordic Council has provided basis for 3 decades of formalized interparliamentary cooperation between the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and Iceland, which makes it one of the oldest ongoing pan-Arctic cooperation mechanisms. Collectively, the West Nordic region is considerably significant in Arctic terms. Due to Greenland's vastness, it covers over 20% of the Arctic's landmass and is home to 10% of the 4.2 million Arctic inhabitants. The cooperation has strong roots given that the 3 countries are each other's closest neighbors and share many historical and cultural bonds, as well as fundamentally similar natural and economic conditions. Culturally, the 3 West Nordic countries, each of which has its own language, share many historical experiences and social similarities, reflecting the often rough living conditions in small and isolated communities, highly dependent on their natural surroundings and maritime resources, but also the resilience of their populations. A partly common cultural heritage and similar economic conditions were vital factors for the establishment of cooperation between these 3 resource-rich islands. The West Nordic Parliamentarian Council of Cooperation was formed in Nuuk, Greenland in 1985 and launched a formal cooperation between the parliaments of the 3 West Nordic countries. The Council's objective is 5-fold: to collaborate on West Nordic interests, to, in combination, preserve natural resources and culture of the North Atlantic and make sure that interests of the West Nordics are ensured through the governments and administrations, not the least in regards to serious issues concerning resource management, pollution, etc. To follow up on the cooperation of governments and administrations in the West Nordics, to work with the Nordic Council and to act as an intermediary concerning West Nordic interests within Nordic cooperation, to act as parliamentary intermediary between West Nordic cooperation agencies and other intergovernmental and international cooperative groups, including Arctic parliamentary cooperation. The way the West Nordic Council currently operates is that the parliaments of Iceland, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands each appoint 6 representatives, in total 18 members, and the Council's general work and activities are administered by a presidium consisting of 1 member from each delegation, including a president, first vice president, and second vice president. The Secretariat is located in Iceland and has a Secretary General. The Council convenes twice every year, once for an annual general meeting that constitutes the Council's supreme authority, and once for a thematic conference on a particular topic of shared interests. Recent years' topics include important regional issues such as search and rescue, welfare, health, gender, youth, infrastructure, transportation, hunting, tourism, and natural resources. Results of the Council's procedures are expressed through recommendations approved at the annual general meeting. They are then submitted to committees of the member countries' parliaments and approved by the parliaments. The issues are then acted upon by the appropriate ministers. The recommendations of the West Nordic Council are in almost all cases accepted, and they are the West Nordic Council's most important tool. With climate change and rapid Arctic developments, it has been natural for the Council to develop more comprehensive West Nordic Arctic cooperation. The Council's thematic conference in 2012, which covered the West Nordic's geopolitical position focusing on Arctic, led to the adoption of recommendation on a common West Nordic strategy for the Arctic. The recommendation urged the Faroese government, Greenland's government, and Iceland's government to take the initiative to strengthen the country's cooperation on Arctic issues and to consider and work on creating a common West Nordic strategy for the Arctic, pertaining to those areas where the countries share common interests and can unite on such a strategy. On the same occasion, the Council furthermore urged the governments to organize regular meetings of their foreign ministers to discuss Arctic matters, as well as other West Nordic common interests. Following this, a meeting between the three foreign ministers took place at this year's annual assembly in Reykjavik for the first time on the initiative of the Council. Last year, the Council had researcher Egil Thor Nielsen look deeper into how to strengthen West Nordic Arctic cooperation. The outcome was a report presented last January in Sandoy, Faroe Islands. Its main findings included a joint West Nordic Arctic strategy to move the region's cooperation forward, given the immense potential for increased Arctic cooperation between the three countries. The aim would be to unleash the West Nordic region's potential as a player of geostrategic and economic significance. To immense opportunities for economic cooperation, many based on maritime resources and expertise with tangible value creation, including expansion of sectors such as energy, mining, tourism, research, transportation, infrastructure, services, and seafood. And finally, establishing a West Nordic free trade zone to strengthen the regional economy, giving the three countries an opportunity to strengthen their subsidized, in the case of Greenland and Faroe Islands, and in depth, in the case of Iceland, economies by establishing a West Nordic free trade zone. At the West Nordic Council's last annual meeting, it was decided that the subject of the Council's 2015 theme conference next January would be the development of a joint West Nordic Arctic strategy. With a stronger Arctic focus, the West Nordic Council has, amongst other things, become more outward focused. In terms of international cooperation, the Council is an observer in several international organizations, including the Standing Committee of the Parliamentarians of the Arctic region. The Council also has a cooperation agreement with the Nordic Council and holds yearly meetings with a delegation of the European Parliament. Hopefully, we can add observer status to the Arctic Council next year, as the West Nordic Council submitted its application last August. We believe it is natural for the West Nordic Council to apply for observer status to the Arctic Council, as both forums share many of the same challenges and opportunities in their Arctic undertakings. We believe that the West Nordic Council has something of value to offer here, building on 3 decades of pan-Arctic interparliamentary cooperation. It provides an example of how parliamentary cooperation can successfully influence national Arctic agenda with recommendations to governments through the democratic process. Thank you.